Hi, this is Raj from MR Sportscars. In this episode of Diary of Porsche Specialist, I'm going to be reviewing two 991 Gen 1 911s, a 911 Carrera 2S Convertible and a 911 Carrera 4S Coupe. Initially, first of all, I'm going to take both for a drive and tell you exactly what I think about them behind the wheel. Okay, for the driving section of this Diary of Porsche Specialist, I'm going to start in the 991 Carrera 4S Coupe, which has obviously the fixed roof, but it does have the optional panoramic roof, which at the touch of a button will open up, let quite a bit more light in, because obviously the glass panel is tinted, and it does lighten up this extended black leather interior with the black suede lining. Having that even when it's closed lets in a lot more light and makes it feel more airy. A full closed coupe can be quite a dark place, so that for me is a great compromise if you don't want the full convertible ownership experience, which includes looking after the hood through winter, making sure that bird poos don't stain any into the fabric. It is mohair, so it is a very resilient material at coping with rain, with storms, with tree litter, pollen, bird poos, everything. I mean, it can, even if it gets dirty, you can actually use certain shampoos and sponges to reinvigorate it and re-proof it, re-waterproof it. So don't be put off by buying a convertible for the maintenance of a convertible, but having a car outside all year round, obviously a coupe is going to be more resilient to the weather and not being clean all the time. I'm just behind some cyclists now. This car has the 7-speed PDK, which is a semi-automatic box, so it can be running full manual, full auto, a combination of the two. It has the optional sport design steering wheel, so it has full-size paddles. So on one side you have a paddle which you pull towards you to go down a gear, and one paddle on the other side to go up a gear, and they follow the steering wheel as well. They're connected to the steering wheel. I'm in sport mode now. This car has the switchable suspension PASM, so it is it can be very soft when it's not engaged, or also very stiff. I say very stiff, it's just a little bit more stiff. A car without PASM, let me put it on tilt now, so you can have this either the sunroof fully open, or you can have it on tilt, which I've got now. The cars without PASM are set in terms of the comfort level halfway between the comfort setting of a PASM car and the sport setting of a PASM car. And likewise, the sport button on this car doesn't have a chrono, but it has the sport button, which livens up how the gearbox interacts. It will change quicker, it will hold gears for longer through the rev range, and the throttle will also be more sensitive to your inputs as well. Just to you, there is actually a sun blind as well, so you can, I can't imagine why you'd want that in the UK, but you can cover it up so that it lets even less light and also heat into the cabin. If it was an extremely sunny day, you'd have that. I guess it's more appropriate if you're in Southern Europe or in the US, having that sun blind, because you can leave it closed when the car's turned off. But in the UK, I guess most people would just leave it open all the time, because it is so nice to have that extra bit of light and to see the sky and see trees as you're rushing underneath them on a drive. So this 911 Carrera 4S Coupe and the 911 Carrera 2S Convertible, which I'm going to drive in a second, have the same engine. It's a 3.8 litre flat six, which produces 400 horsepower, and it produces 325 foot-pounds of torque, and that's regardless of what gearbox you have. So this obviously has the PDK. The Convertible has the 7-speed manual. They both are geared very similarly, I'd say, and obviously there's a little bit less involvement in the PDK box compared to the manual, but the advantages of the PDK are that it's much easier to live with at low speed while manoeuvring, and also in traffic. and also on a longer journey you don't have to use the clutch, so that's one less thing to worry about. The clutch isn't too heavy in the manual, but your leg will start to feel it after sort of a couple of hours of driving, I would say. But the level involvement of a manual is also something to consider. If you're just using it for weekend driving, you would want to, I guess, drive the manual to see. But they are a lot rarer, a lot harder to get hold of, especially now that these cars are sort of between 12 years old now. Yeah, 10 or 12 years old. So these cars, I mean, the manuals are quite a bit rarer, so if you're looking at one of these cars and it doesn't have the manual, you might be waiting quite a while for your ideal spec car in the right colour with a manual gearbox, because I would say between 80 and 90% were spec'd with this phenomenal ZF 7-speed automatic. Now, how they drive? Well, very similar actually. The obvious difference is that you have the roof down experience with the convertible, but the coupe feels that ever so slightly more composed on corners with bumps, but they're both as solid as each other. They don't rattle, even though that they are not brand new cars anymore, that you don't really get rattles and shakes like you may expect on a used car. This car's covered 50,000 miles and it drives exactly the same as the 30,000 mile convertible. So I'm now going to switch into the convertible and compare the two driving wise. Okay, so I'm now in the 911 Carrera 2S convertible, which has got the 7-speed manual box. It's obviously got a very contrasting interior in that it has extended red leather rather than extended black leather, and it has these amazing carbon fibre GT3 seats, which are fixed back, so you can't adjust the angle. All you can do is move it forwards and back. You can't even change the height, so it's a very fixed position. And it feels very secure and snug, and I actually find them very comfortable. I find them as comfortable as the sport seats and the sport seats plus. Some people may not find the lower back support enough, but there are actual inserts you can buy to sort of give you extra padding to help with the curvature of your spine when you're sitting down. So they are very usable, and you could do a long journey in these seats without any problems at all. But getting back to the rest of the car, so this is the two-wheel drive version, which has the narrow body, so it has the same width body as any two-wheel drive Carrera, and it's 4.4 centimeters narrower than the 4S I've already driven. It doesn't really make a difference to how it drives in that sense. It doesn't feel less composed or less harsh in how it drives. They both drive very similarly because they both have the 20-inch wheels, which are 11-inch wide at the rear and 8.5-inch wide at the front. They're different styles in terms of their looks, and I'll talk through that when I've got the two cars side by side at the premises. But for all intents and purposes, they handle very similarly, and actually you don't really notice a difference, especially on a sort of late spring day like today, where the road temperature is probably around mid-teens. There's no level of slipping in the rear wheels on this car. I was going to overtake there, but there's a cyclist and a car ahead of me, so I'm going to actually slow down and show you that you can operate the roof at up to 40 miles an hour. Well, it's between 30 and 40 miles an hour. I think it's 50 kilometers an hour. The control is. So I've just put it up there. So now we are in a closed cabin environment, which is also lovely. I mean, it's lovely to be in this car with the roof closed as well. It's got a double skin. It's mohair. It insulates the road noise very, very well. Obviously, you're going to get a level of road noise through a fabric roof, but over and above a coupe, but it's not uncomfortable even on a rough surface like this one is here. There's no rattles or shakes from the car either. It does drive, I would say, very similarly to the 3.4 litre Carrera 4S as well. They have the same power, same torque, all delivered at the same ranges. The big difference in how it drives is actually this manual gearbox. The 7-speed manual is a phenomenal box to use. Initially, before I had a manual box, this is my first manual box 991, I did think surely that 7th gear is a bit of a gimmick, but actually on the motorway it really comes into its own, because like the PDK, the car will sit comfortably under 2000 RPM, so it will comfortably achieve mid-30s miles to the gallon on a run on the motorway, and all other times you'd expect to get about sort of 28 to 30 miles to the gallon as an average, and if you were on a spirited drive, I guess it would be lower 20s, which is actually very good for such a big engine, 3.8 litre. I love how this car drives, and I love convertibles full stop. I've loved the Boxsters as well, but for me this is, if it was mainly a summer car, I would have the convertible. If it was an all year round sports car, I would have that 4S with the auto PDK box with the sport design steering wheel, just exactly how it is, with the switchable sports exhaust. But having said that, both are phenomenal, and I would give them both 10 out of 10 in how they feel on the road, how they make you feel behind the wheel. And yes, the experience is different, but they're both great at how they're different. So one doesn't feel lacking versus the other, it's just a different experience. And I guess in an ideal world you'd have one of each. You'd have this one, the Carrera 2S rear-wheel drive manual gearbox 991, and then you'd have the four-wheel drive coupe, which you could use all year round with the PDK box and use it on long journeys and things like that. And this is the more sort of short journey summer car with the GT3 seats and things. So really they're the perfect combination together, but in isolation also they're both phenomenal cars. And I think that's where I'll leave the driving part of this video. As you can tell from my driving video of both, I think these two would be the perfect combination of 911s to own. One for the summer when it's absolutely dry, and one for longer distance and also all weather, all year round fun. Now the two cars here are very different in how they look. So they're both 2013 model year cars. This convertible here is finished in pure white, which is a non-metallic gloss paint, and this is finished in a classic colour for Porsche, which is basalt black metallic, which has got a little gold fleck in the paint when you look at it close, especially when the sun's out. Now, one thing that the coupe can't compete with is this stunning roof, which, especially with the contrasting red, really sets off this car. And I'll just open the roof using the key. The key is actually colour-coded to the car, so red interior, red hood with the white edges. And this can be done from the factory, or it can be done using replacement cases off of places like eBay and Amazon. So that's the roof opening remotely, revealing the full extended leather in Carrera red, and that's a natural leather finish. So that's it up all the way, the windows and everything. The coupe has the panoramic roof, which I mentioned in my driving video. That also gives you an open air experience, but obviously not to the same extent as the convertible has. The gearbox also makes a huge difference. This is the 7-speed manual. So this car has obviously got 3 pedals. Let me show you that. There's the 3 pedals. Whereas this car has the ZF box, and as I showed you on the roads, the involvement with the driver is totally different when you compare the two. The 7-speed semi-automatic ZF box can be running full manual or full auto, or sort of a combination of the two. They both have a very similar steering wheel, so the sport design steering wheel. With the PDK you get these extra paddles to change gear in any mode, whereas in the manual gearbox car it doesn't have those paddles at all. Now the seats are a big part of this car, and they were a special request in Porsche Germany to have them fitted. They're the GT3 carbon fibre fixed back sport seats, so they don't change in how the angle of the rear back, and you can't adjust the height. All you can do is move it forwards and back. But they, as I explained in the video, they're extremely comfortable. And this car has the Sport Seats Plus, which have got grey plastic hardbacks. And then option wise inside, neither car has Sport Chrono Package Plus, but they both have the Sport button, and they have the PASM switchable suspension. This car has the switchable sports exhaust, but even a car without the switchable sports exhaust sounds phenomenal, especially as a convertible, because you do hear the engine. The 3.8s actually sound really good with the standard non-sports exhaust, as you would have hopefully heard on the video of me driving it. The dials and everything are the same in their layout, so you have a set of 5 dials there. This car has cruise control, which the other car doesn't, so there's that extra stalk there to switch that on and off. And then looking at other differences, this car has the heated seat, so it has extra buttons here. It has the electric folding mirror, so it has an extra button here as well. And it has Bose. So it has the Bose stereo there, so that's 12 speaker, 445 watts, whereas that car has the Sound Package Plus, which I think is 9 or 10 speakers. I'll look it up when I talk through the differences on paper as well. There's the pano roof, which if I open it, I'll show you exactly what it looks like with it open from the outside, which obviously you couldn't see on the driving bit. So there it is, fully open compared to the convertible. Now, other things that make a difference on these cars are the body kit. So this has the full aero kit from the factory. That's the GTS style front and rear bumper, so it has a different design, and it has a hard plastic lower skirt at the front, whereas the Carrera 4S has a sort of plastic front finisher to protect it if you hit a curb or just graze the bottom against the curb. And then it's got different apertures there, so you can see just one single aperture there on each side, whereas that has single one, and then it has those bits there that feed into that, and then a blanking plate in the middle, because neither of these have got the central third radiator. The rears, that has a spoiler that comes up at speed just in that section there, whereas the convertible has, with this aero kit, it has a fixed ducktail there. Just check the oil and lift and top up the coolant. Sorry, to top up the oil and the coolant, you would just open this section here, and there they are. Whereas in the convertible, you have to hold down the same button, and it opens up that whole section there, and that's where you can see the same bits there. Both Carrera 3.8s, both the 400 horsepower, 325 foot-pounds of torque. This car will do 60. The convertible will do 60 in 4.3 seconds, and the coupe with the all-wheel drive system and PDK will do it in 3.9. So it's a little bit quicker, but really in real world terms you don't notice that as a huge difference. The wheels are different. They're both 20-inch wheels. These are the Carrera S wheels, and they're the Mark III version of those, finished in satin platinum. The brakes are the bigger red calipers, same as these ones here, and these are the Carrera Classics. So that's the key differences on the outside, and I'll just talk you through the paperwork on the inside. Okay, so looking at the paperwork of these, so width 1808 for the convertible, the wider body 4S is 1852, so 4.4 centimeters difference there. The height is actually lower, the convertible. The length is the same. The track 1538, 1516, 1538, 1552. So it's that width is shown in where the wheels sit as well. Wheelbase is the same. Size of the wheels and tyres slightly different. Then you've got the brake setup is the same, the suspension setup's the same, the engine's the same, and yeah, you've got the same horsepower. The acceleration is slightly different, 4.3 versus 3.9. Max speed is slightly different as well on the two, and the weight's identical as well, but obviously that will depend on the spec of equipment fitted. So this one has Bose, which is 12 speaker, 445 watt. The sound package plus is 235 watt, 9 speakers. So that's another difference as well.